Yo, welcome back to the It Isn't For Everyone show. Today I'm super excited. I have a mentor, someone who taught me how to work hard, someone who taught me how to grow up, someone who taught me how to be more disciplined in my life. And everything you guys see from me is literally by proxy from what I've learned from this man. I'm super excited to talk to him because he just embodies all of those quotes that you love. He don't really do a lot of talking. So today we're gonna deep dive into his mindset. So hey man, Jivan, what's the deal,
Chilling, man. How you doing?
dog? I'm doing good. I was super excited for today. Like I've always wanted to talk to you or interview you or just put your mindset out there
Mm,
because it's top 1%. You know what I mean? You got guys like on social media like Goggins and stuff like that, but you really are like that dude, like the hardest worker, someone who super believes in himself, someone who um I try to be like.
mm.
And so we're gonna learn a lot about me today, and you'll learn we'll learn a lot about you, and then the listener will learn a lot about themselves. So I want to start from the beginning, man. We met probably in 2005 or six, right? Just young kids. When I first met you, I instantly was like, "Yo, dude got muscle." Like he's I. One thing about me is if I'm envious of something, I don't take it as like I want to take it away from you. I just go, "Ooh, that's something I want." And so I always, from that point, like had my attention on you because I was like, "Yo, he's living right. He has muscle." So just where did that all come from? Where did that discipline come from? Um, as a child. I remember you told me a story, and hopefully you
Mhm.
could tell this story
Yeah.
about Marcus Houston.
Ah,
So
yeah.
where did that drive come from, and what? Let's start physical. What locked you into the gym?
So physically, initially, it was just seeing music video. Everybody used to watch like the MTV Jams, the 106 in Park, and saw a music video, saw this man, doing his thing, and you
Hmm.
had a bunch of ladies just screaming for someone. When I look back, that was moderately in shape.
Hmm.
And there wasn't really this space to where you had fitness influencers. You weren't seeing that, but in my mind it was he's in shape, which now I see that as moderately in shape,
Hmm.
but people are screaming, fanning out, and he's making a ton of money, a ton of noise,
Hmm.
and impact in a space in a different way.
Yeah.
And so seeing that, the first thing I said was, okay, I want that. So that started randomly at that moment, and I'm at a buddy's house. I'm out of state, just visiting,
Mhm.
and immediately I'm just doing push-ups for no reason. But in my mind, I'm gonna get buff tomorrow. Like, no, I'm not stopping until I look better.
Yeah.
Like whether that's tonight, tomorrow, the next day. But yeah, it kind of gave me a little bit of drive. That transition into working at a gym, and it was really sales. But as I got into that sales space, as part of the space, you're supposed to take the person and try to like introduce them or familiarize them with working out.
Yeah.
And I started competing with the trainers. Like I didn't know how to train, but it was like, hey, if I can push this person to work a little bit harder than what you give them,
Yeah.
maybe they would want to train with me, or maybe I can just show that I'm better in that space.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and I kind of just fell into a position.
Yeah. Where did that competitive drive come from? Because I remember one time we were eating some food,
Hmm.
and someone said that I had the best abs
Mm,
at the table.
mm,
And one thing I learned from you is never give tacit agreement, like
hmm.
where you just let somebody say something that you don't agree with and you just let it go.
Yeah.
You always be like, and this is exactly what you said. No, we don't.
Yep.
We could take our shirt off right now at this table. And
Absolutely.
so, where did that competitiveness come from? And I personally think competition is existential.
Yes.
It's just how you go about it when you're trying to be like, I don't compete. You're trying to compete, but you can't keep up with the work rate. So you're trying to act like you're better than someone who competes by saying, I don't compete. That's what someone else does. So where did that competitiveness come from?
Um, I think it was just like you can look at it as not wanting to lose, not or wanting to win, but for me, it was just about how do I get better. And so even to this day, like if I'm in the gym and I think that you're doing something well, then my immediate perspective is I need to do double or triple what you're doing. Maybe that means if you're lifting this for 5, I'm going for 10. If you've been here for an hour and I feel like you working out, you burning, you're doing what you're doing, I'm gonna be here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's competition, but it's competition with myself.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that I can use other people to motivate me to go harder so
Mhm.
that I make sure I'm moving the needle in whatever direction I want to get better in.
Yeah.
So I just looked at certain people as motivators. And
Mhm.
there are some people who I won't compete with because there's no reason.
There's no point.
Right, there's
Yeah.
no point. So if I'm not actively going at you, it's not a sign of respect. It's probably because I don't see you as worthy of me putting my efforts or energy in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah. And so it's actually kind of a good thing if you see someone and go at them like that because you're like,
Mhm.
okay, and you kind of see that there's something there. And then when you compete with them, they're going to lose.
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
but because of that mindset, you taught me how to work hard because I still have that thinking as well. I want to compete. So when I saw you, I wanted to compete and be at that level, but I was like, how in the world does someone do this?
Mhm.
Like, I've been doing 100 pull-ups a day for, I don't know, 8, 9 years now
Yes, sir.
because of you. But when I first started and you were like, I do 100 pull-ups a day, I was like, he's lying. He's lying. He's
Yeah,
lying.
that's what people say.
I used to talk to our friend Guy, and Guy used to just me and Guy to this day be like, "Do he be lying? Do he do he be taking something that's helping him? How is he doing this?" And I'm like, "Bro, I worked out for with him for years. He literally just works that hard." So I want to talk about the foundation time of you becoming that
Mhm.
because who pushed you or what pushed you to that point? Because there's no way I would have got to this point without seeing that it was possible
Mhm.
from you, right? So
Mhm.
what did you see to make you think it was possible, or this that's just your mindset?
Um, I don't really like I don't believe in limitations. That's one big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously I got tattoos and they all mean something to me. One of them says limitless. I keep it on the inside of my arm and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I don't think that if you can think of it, I think it's possible.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, no matter how crazy esoteric it may seem, if you can envision it, I do believe that it is possible.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think that we're shaped by our experiences and our perspectives on those.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a lot of hardship, there's a lot of trials and things that I went through, experienced, and it just gave me a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And we can dive into that, but my perspective became, and I wrote this on an old social media platform. We're not going to say which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
And
MySpace.
one of my taglines, and it was very misconstrued and misunderstood, was success is the willingness to commit suicide daily. And how I viewed that was if you're not growing, you're dying, and growth is success. So you can't be the same person today and the next day and the next day. You're going to have to keep destroying and killing off that older version of yourself to become something better.
Yeah.
So for me, when it came to working out, it was simple. It was really simple. It was pain is your friend.
Yeah.
There is no end, like pain is your best friend. Not only does it give you reason to grow, but it gives you direction. It tells you if you're doing something wrong, if you're doing something right.
Yeah.
It lets you know where you stand. So I just stopped avoiding it. So
Mhm.
where most people back off, I say, if this hurts, let's make it more.
Yeah. Talk about that up the hard upbringing or those things that put you into that mindset. Can you give a story or just examples? And then as you give that, what got you through?
Mm. So I think that that's interesting because it's different in different times.
Yeah.
So like early on, you can just say it was bullheaded frustration. Like I don't want this anymore. I don't want to feel this. And again, you lean into the pain. And now we're in a different space. Um, if I went back to earlier times, which I still kind of hold this same perspective, is everybody has traumas,
Yeah.
no matter who you are. And realistically, I don't sympathize too well with people because I think that even though everybody has trauma, most people aren't dealing with things that are really that heavy
Yeah.
and they're making them heavy via perspective.
Yeah.
But regardless of what you're dealing with, emotionally, if I'm feeling, I can just hurt myself physically.
Yeah.
Now, to clear that up, that doesn't mean that you should be suicidal. And if you are, you probably should seek assistance. That doesn't mean that you're creating injury.
Yeah.
What that means is you lean into the physical pain that's going to make you better,
Yeah.
and you embody that. And guess what? Your mental not only becomes more resilient, it becomes more tolerant. You get a better inoculation. And now, not only am I conquering that mental because I'm learning to be progressive, I'm learning to give myself momentum. Now I'm more formidable.
Yeah.
So when something happens, it's like, all right, bet you can't hurt me more than I've hurt myself, which makes me effectively better.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the next level stuff.
Hmm.
Because I'm listening to you and I'm learning.
Mm,
But for someone who doesn't know what inoculation means,
mm,
and threat inoculation
mm,
is everything, right?
absolutely.
So break down what inoculation is, as simply as you can, and how it helps someone who might be depressed or anxious, and how it helps someone who might be struggling right now. And what, because a great trainer, and you're a trainer, performance, mindset, you're that guy, you embody all of that, gives just enough inoculation to improve you without killing you.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that concept as best you can?
So the idea is when we say inoculating stress, just to give it in a layman's terms, is that we want to give you some level of exposure
Mhm.
that lets you see something that makes you uncomfortable. And once you get through it, you see it wasn't as bad as the mental perspective that you created. So you can look at inoculation as a vaccine. What does a vaccine do? It gives your body a defense system for something that could come to let you know that you already had all of the assets you needed, but now you know you're
Now you
capable.
know you're capable of it.
So when it when I'm looking for stress inoculation, I've done many of things to do that for myself, but you try to push people to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when their mind or their heart, their emotion starts playing those games of saying, I want to stay comfortable, so I'm going to create this idea that it's worse on the other end.
Yeah.
Like what's in front of you is not as bad as what you
Think
think
it
is
is.
going to be further out. And so you just have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And that could be something as simple as taking a cold shower. That can be something as simple as skydiving. That could be simple as, hey, I'm afraid of the ocean, so I'm gonna go scuba diving. Hey, you know what? I'm afraid of animals, so I'm gonna go hiking. Whatever, wherever you're at, you find ways to give yourself stress
Mhm.
because as you keep giving yourself more, you become more in tune and that anxiety, that depression,
Mhm.
it's all gonna be somehow related to what you think is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And you're not dealing with the present. So you find ways to say, let me stay more present
Mhm.
and stop creating problems. Because if you create that problem, like you think this is going to go bad, well, it likely is. And you're going to be the one that's aligning with that outcome that you said you didn't want.
Yeah. Let's unpack that, because I have a
Mhm.
talk that I call "Winning the War for Your Life."
Okay.
And funny quick story: I'm in the Philippines. I'm giving the talk at a hotel called Solaire.
Hmm.
It's like hundreds of people there. And there was some guys there from Sweden, and they were like, "Hey, you're the guy giving the talk," and I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What's your talk called?" And I'm like, "Winning the War for Your Life in
Mm.
Business." And they're like, "Americans, everything is war with you." And I'm like, "Oh, it's funny, huh? Like, you gonna get slapped up right here." But even though it
Where are
was
they
kind
from
of
again?
funny, they're Sweden.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably why they lose.
yeah. That's probably why they think that.
Hmm.
But it's literally, I call it a war, and it's against yourself, because your own mind literally holds you back from so much. And I
Hmm.
remember when I wrote my first book, I was terrified for some reason, writing the book and launching it. And then after I launched it and I got the proof copies and I opened the book and I held the book, I was just like, had this feeling of like, "Ugh," like you did that, even
Yes.
though you were scared. And I remember we were working out and you explained getting stronger to me at that moment. This is what you said. You said, "You're already strong enough, but you need to let your brain know that you'll be safe if your
Hmm.
brain releases that strength."
Absolutely.
So I was like, "Well, how do I do that? What are you focusing on when you're doing this lift?" And you were like, "Picking it up."
Yep.
And I was like, "Yeah, but how do you?" "Yeah, I pick it up by picking it up." And so it's not, we make it complicated because we're scared a lot of times.
Mm.
So kind of talk about that. And after you talk about that, where did you learn that?
So, like you said, I think a lot of the limitations or distractions come from social order. Because when people are born, children, they don't really see limitations.
Yeah.
But now we relate or we get immersed in society by way of other people's fears, other people's outcomes, and their results. And in some aspects, we can learn, but using prior knowledge is a huge limitation
Yeah.
because now we're no longer present. We're operating on something that wasn't even ours, and we're just bringing it
Bringing it
into
into the
our in
world.
our current. We need to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more mobile to say what's in front of me right now.
Mhm.
And since this is in front of me right now, let me make the best decision in this very moment and not be concerned with what someone else did.
Yeah.
So, like,
Survival.
right, and that's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we're meeting stress when we're lifting weights. We're meeting stress. There's opposition, there's
Mhm.
resistance, and we're trying to familiarize ourselves to make sure that the opposition we give or the pushback we give
Mhm.
is going to be formidable enough to withstand injury and potentially move this object.
Mm.
And as I said before, and I'll say again, like we have enough strength.
Yeah.
We've seen where a grandmother lifts a car off of a child,
Yeah.
and I've never seen that happen where she turned green, where she ended up being 20 feet. She started screaming and she said, "My name's Bruce Banner." That's never happened, right? They're
Yeah.
they're not the Hulk.
Yeah.
But there was an immediate level of focus. There was an immediate removal of distraction. And all of the fears that were there from the social order of expectation were removed by way of focus on one outcome. Her
Mhm.
objective was to save
Save
that
that
child.
child.
That love that she had for that child removed the fears and therefore removed the governor. So that's really where strength training lies. How do we remove this governor?
Governor.
And if we do things often enough, this is why I say frequency will trump intensity.
Mhm.
The more frequent we do something, the more likely we are to be able to do it better.
Yeah.
And for me, like when I was trying to figure that out, one of the things I wrote down, and I wrote a full, like it was researched, I wrote a decent amount of work on it, was I called it primate theory.
Mhm.
And the functional idea behind it was primates are very much like us. Genetically, we're close. We're always in the 90th percentile. Some are a little bit further down that line.
Mhm.
The tissue, the muscle fibers are very similar.
Mhm.
What they would argue the differences are sometimes we have joint angles, we have muscular length, we have skeletal development, then we have motor units. So we have some fine motor units and large motor units. They'll say that they have more large motor units.
Yeah.
But even with that limited understanding, it sounds complicated, it's
Mhm.
very
Nah,
limited.
it's really. Yeah.
The difference in output should not be what it is. But you look at what they do all day. They swing, they play. They don't really come to this idea of I can't do this.
Yes.
Everything that when there's a need, it's met. And
Mhm.
so I just started adopting that mindset to say if there's a need, let's just
Do
go
it.
ahead and do it. And if it doesn't work the way that you want to, that doesn't mean that you say it was a failure.
Mhm.
Maybe you just took a misstep and you still need to go readdress and revisit that.
Yeah.
Because the moment that you don't, you're going to set yourself 5 steps back
Back.
when you only fell one.
So just to talk about, I want to talk about that governor
Hmm.
because my pops also understands this,
Hmm.
and he had me work on landing, work on landing, work
Yes.
on landing, and I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, this is boring, right?
Mm.
But he knew that I was just and not teaching my brain that it's safe
Mhm.
to land.
Yep.
It's safe to land. That's showing the governor like, hey, let him get up into the air higher because
Absolutely.
he knows how to land now. I already could jump the fort. I think I jumped to 38 around that time. Um, but your body won't let you jump higher than when it's going to get hurt. How do you determine someone's governor? Because we don't want anyone to be get hurt and set themselves back. Um how do you determine the amount of stress?
I mean, there's different ways to do that. I like what your pops did. I think that's brilliant. The idea that he's taking is just reverse engineering.
Mhm.
It's saying at the end goal or the end result, what needs to happen.
Mhm.
No matter how high you jump, you're going to come back
Back
down.
down. Mhm.
So at that point, that's a very good way. And he's familiarizing and saying, let's now take note or document the return and output.
Yeah.
Is it getting higher?
Mhm.
And that's a good way, a safe way. And I'll be honest, depending on who I'm working with, what level of athlete, um, also, are they in competition? Do they have something to get ready for?
Mhm.
What are you preparing for? I don't mind for myself being hurt. Being hurt has never been a negative.
Mhm.
It's a learned experience. This is
Yeah.
something that you have to acknowledge, that it's okay to be hurt,
Mhm.
because if you don't push those limits from time to time,
Yeah.
you're going to stay within them. You have to keep expanding your boundaries, and you can't operate with, if this doesn't go right, because that's a limitation in itself.
Yeah.
So I would just say, when you're testing, figure out where you're not comfortable and then find the energy leaks, as some people like to say.
Yeah.
So, landing, wonderful.
Mhm.
Stability, wonderful. Ability to take contact and be stable, wonderful. Ability to control at different rates of movement, ability to stop at from fast to slow,
Slow.
change of direction. So when we talk about the lengthening and shortening cycle, we talk about that amortization. That means when you're going from lengthening, how fast can you
Until you
stop
shorten.
that and then go back to shortening? And looking at these different measures and saying, okay, let's train them individually,
Mhm.
and then let's complement them with whichever direction of movement we want
Mhm.
after getting those areas warmed up.
Mhm. And knowing what I guess, and I don't know how you look at it, but the way I look at it, or the only way I can explain it, is said principle, right? Specific um, adaptation imposed demands, right?
Hmm.
So if you have a hooper,
Hmm.
you might look at like a Russell Westbrook whose vertical is, I believe, it's like a 36, where that's not crazy high, but his amortization is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's a distinction that a lot of people don't know. That's why you should go to someone who knows what they're talking about, like this man. Um, but I want to back up and talk about, because I almost forgot, that
Hmm.
decision making process that you're how you're able to make a decision like that. So you told me a story that I want you to get into, and then make the point on how you're able to do that,
Okay.
on how you heard about the hardest hike
Mm.
in America. And I consider myself to be tough.
Hmm.
I've done this hike 3 times, failed twice, did it once.
Mm.
You heard about the hike.
Hmm.
I don't know if someone challenged you, but you challenged yourself and said, "I'll do it this week," or "I'll
Yeah.
do it tomorrow."
Yeah.
Tell that story, and talk about what happened, and just to throw the lob, like, talk about the actual hike. It's called Cactus to Clouds. You guys
Hmm.
can Google it. Talk about that story.
So I believe it was a week prior. Could have been some days. I forget about how long.
Hmm.
But I had watched a video, and the video had Will Smith in there. And so he's sitting there talking to, I believe, Oprah, and he's talking about, on the, like, God places the blessings in life on the other side of fear. So the greatest thing in life are on the other side of fear.
Hmm.
And he's talking about skydiving. So I watched the video, and being black, we don't jump out of
Yeah,
planes.
we don't
That's
mess with that.
that's not what we do.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, and respectfully so, but I said to myself, well, he said on the other side of fear, I can't be afraid.
Yeah.
So you fast forward, I think that was a Tuesday or Wednesday. Thursday, I booked a skydiving trip. So I go through with that, and I played my dad, because I told my dad, like, hey, man, you won't go skydiving. You scared? He's like, I'm not scared. So what I do, I booked his.
Yeah, you the type to
So
do
yeah, so
that.
then I didn't tell him that I
What you
booked
doing
it.
tomorrow?
Yeah, no,
I'm
I didn't tell him. I
skydiving.
told him we doing something for Father's Day. He should have knew something was up, because I don't celebrate holidays. He has no idea. So we get in the car, doors locked, I'm on the freeway. I'm driving 3 hours to get him to go skydiving. He has no idea till we get about an hour and a half out, because I didn't want to tell him, because
Yeah.
that's all. I was like, look, I already spent like $400. We got the cameras, we got it going. So either way, I skydive, super liberated. Now at this point, I'm feeling different. So I'm in the gym, and I'm talking about, man, I've done a hike, maybe two, three, but not I'm not avid. And someone in the gym randomly is like, oh, there's a really hard hike, but you have to train for it. I said, what's it called? And they said, Cactus to Clouds. And I said, all right, bet. So I'm looking up on the All Trails, because I just found out about this app. Great app. They should give me a sponsorship, because I've
All
probably
trails.
hit
Yeah.
up 200, 400, 300 people. I've given them this app.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. All Trails let you see every single trail, ascension, all that.
Yeah.
So I look on it, and it says, okay, 21 miles, ascension, which is the elevation gain, or how much you climb upward, 10,800 feet. So the gain is above 2 miles. You're going more than 2 miles
Up.
upward. So I said, okay, I'll do it next week. They said, well, no, they said, you need to look, because like it's been on like Strange Ways to Die. Someone died last week. I said, bet, I'll do it next week. So what do? I look it up, and they said, okay, get a nature pass.
Mhm.
Now this is in July.
Yeah.
So the hike itself, it starts behind Palm Springs Museum.
Mhm.
Now, this Palm Springs, it's
Yeah.
July. So I call up, say,
Hot.
hey, right. I
Heat.
said, Ranger Station, I need to get a nature pass. Said, we're not giving them out. Someone died and it's too hot. This is not safe. I said, okay, so how does this work? Like, are there like rangers there? They were like, no, like, we just like, you need a pass, but we're not going to give it out. I said, okay, bet. So I hit up one of my clients at the time and he brought his assistant. I said, we're going to do this on this day, which was July 31st. And I said, we'll just show up at 10, 11 p.m. because no one's there and they can't stop us,
Mhm.
which was true.
Yeah.
So we get there, we map. I said, but we're gonna be good. Well, problem with that is it's about 102.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about hiking, so I'm in boots, full pants. You got a backpack with random stuff I shouldn't have. Left 60% of the water in the car. Worst decision you could make because I'm just excited to go do something
Something,
that
yeah.
I heard that people aren't even surviving.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm liberated. I can do
You
whatever I
need
want.
water. I did it in a good temperature, and halfway up, I drank 6 liters of water,
Yeah.
and still refilled. Did another 6 liters to the top, and still the next day was dehydrated.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going. And it's hot as I don't know what. And I'm still not thinking that I've left over 60% of water in the car and fruit and all that stuff, right? This is left. I don't know. So we hit a rock. There's a rock on the trail. If people don't know, you can Google it. Google cactus to clouds rock, and you'll see a picture.
And it
And it
has a
says
writing on it.
on the rock, it says, I want to say it says 8 miles to Ranger Station,
Mhm.
10 hours, no water on trail. So in my mind, I'm like, bet, no problem. We're gonna kill this. It's not gonna take 8 hours or 10 hours. It's fine. It's nighttime. So we get going. At some point realize we have no water.
Yeah.
Because in my pack, I didn't fill it all the way.
Mhm.
And so that probably had, it was supposed to be 90 ounces. I think I probably had about 70, 75. So now I'm like, okay, I'm out of water. It's kind of bad, but we'll just kind of get through.
Yeah.
I'm with two people. One of them, he starts tripping out. And so he's like, there has to be water on the trail.
Mhm.
Like, how can, and it gets to him because he's saying they should have a vending machine. We're in the desert. There are no vending machine on hiking trails, but this is what he's saying. So somehow he decides,
Now,
I'm going to go.
is he just crazy at this moment, or is it because of the dehydration?
I mean, he's crazy all the time. I'm not going to put him out there like that because he's a solid individual
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
he's one of the most
If
goal
you
oriented.
took him with you, then you said he ain't on my level, but he's tough.
He's solid. That's my guy.
Yeah,
That is my guy. And matter of fact, Jonathan don't care. He
Mhm.
he wouldn't care at all.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he says, I'm gonna go up and I said, we gotta stay together because the person he brought was getting tired.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm just gonna go find a vending machine. All right, I said, all right. There's nothing up there, but stay within visual. So we're hiking. 30 minutes later, I don't see him. Hour later, can't find him. 2 hours later, can't find him. So now I'm getting kind of worried. And now my phone rings
Mhm.
because when you're out there, sometimes you get service if you're in an open environment. And
Yeah.
he's telling me, I fell asleep. I have no idea where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, bet altitude may be getting to you a bit. Then service goes out. Now I'm calling the ranger station.
Mhm.
They're asking, like, where is he at? I'm trying to give him altitude markers, but I'm like, I don't know where he's at. I haven't seen him for 2.5 hours. And the trail can be a little bit hard to follow. It is a hard trail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not going to see these little dots of paint, and sometimes they get covered.
Yeah.
Long story short, they asked, is anybody cramping, anything like that? I said, no, absolutely not. Mind you, I've been cramping the last few hours. It took me 5 hours of cramping just to get to the top
Yeah.
because I didn't have water.
Uh-huh.
But we do find him at the end. He's tripping out. The other guy that I was with is crying the whole time, thinking we're going to die, and we can't find
Literally crying or just like making excuses?
literally tears coming down his face. But you can imagine because when it gets daytime, it's 110, 112.
It's hot.
And now he's ran out of water. He had more than I did. We can't find that person. There's cramping going on. People are tired and someone's lost. And all you know is that someone died the week
It
prior.
ain't like you could just leave.
You can't leave.
You're
Can't go
out
back.
there.
You got to go back. You can't go back. Got to go up.
Yeah.
So finally we get there. We make it back. They go back to the Ritz-Carlton. We had a room. I was like, I'm out. I'm going home. I'm not staying here. I said, I'm not coming back to this mountain. I'm good. So fast forward like a week later, I'm not processing any food. I'm going through complete distension because I almost went through renal failure.
Yeah.
And my body just wasn't processing. So I took a lot of heat from that because, you're cramping that bad. Your body is just taking all of these salts, trying to keep your heart working.
Yeah.
And people don't realize when you go through like extreme dehydration and 100+ degree weather while climbing walking 21 miles, but climbing
Climbing.
10,800 feet, it takes a toll.
It's
But
crazy.
I loved it. I don't regret it at all.
It's insane. The first time we went, someone had to drop out. They start throwing up.
Don't forget
Second
to say
time,
that they went to the bathroom.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They were throwing up. It was diarrhea, or they just had to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
But
You know who you are.
even though you're super strong,
Hmm.
you're still very safe. And so it's a good thing you were like, no, if you're losing fluids like that, we should probably turn back. And the hard part about this hike is you start at 0 and you climb
Hmm.
11,000 feet. And so as you climb, it gets cooler.
Mm,
So the reason why people die is because they turn around because it's
yes.
so hard, and then they get cooked by the sun in the desert, and
Yeah.
then they go out. But second time when we did it, I remember getting to the ranger station and just feeling myself like what? We to the ranger station, I'm hurting.
Still got to go up.
I'm hurting. Still gotta go up. And in all trails, it's like, oh, it's I think all trail says it's like 21 miles. It's more like 26, 27. Because when you get to the ranger station, you still got like 10, like 5 up, 5 down
Yeah,
to the
you
peak.
got a little ways. Yeah.
And so mentally, when you think you know the destination and then that ain't the destination, it kills you.
Absolutely.
It kills you. And so talk about um working towards a goal
Hmm.
without knowing the destination. Cause I remember we took a guy out on a hike and he kept asking, hey, how far is it, man?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
far is it?
yeah.
You you were like, it's mental training.
And then I told him that what I kept saying to him was man move feet and feet move man.
Man move feet, feet move man.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, it's mental training. It's mental training when you just keep walking, you don't know the destination, man.
Yeah,
Just keep moving, man. Just keep walking.
yeah,
Just walking. You good.
yeah.
So talk about that. Chasing a destination that you don't know how far it
So for me, with most things,
is.
I
Mm-hmm.
think this is where people lose sight. Like I always like now I look at it like you can have a goal, but you really just need to have plans.
Yeah.
Like the goal helps you align the plans, but then you have to get rid of this idea of missing.
Yeah.
You know, that's that I posted the other day and I put a picture and it's just basically my little check in. It's an app shot, but I said don't miss. And I think people miss because they set goals versus making a plan. A plan has a commitment. Now plans can change.
Yeah.
I can say, hey, I plan to go, 2 streets over and make 3 rights, and then later I say I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that's not me missing. I just changed the plans.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to figuring out where you want to go, I think people lose sight of like there are going to be variables. There are going to be oppositions, even things that you think you know the path. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not life. Things change.
Yeah.
It's forever moving. So I think with anything that you go after, like you can have an idea of what you want the end state to be, what you
Mm-hmm.
want to embody, what you want to accomplish from it. But I just don't really look at understanding fully. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, in itself, that's the definition of faith. It's a
Yeah.
complete and unwavering
Ooh.
belief. So for me, like it's faith over fear. And the only time you are afraid or fearful is when you have division of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say I want to do this and I plan to do that, like it doesn't matter what comes in front of me because faith says, okay, I've decided to do this. So now that I've decided, I'm just going to keep rolling until.
Certainty.
It's not a if, it's a until.
Yeah. Yeah. A few years back, our brother Cam uh had end stage kidney failure, and we were putting together money, just doing things to help.
Yes.
And you hit my line, hey yo, I'm gonna run for Cam. Do
Hmm.
you want to put money in? And I'm like, yeah, I'll put money in. You're like, I'm a for every mile I do, people pay me this.
Yeah.
So you hit a bunch of people up, and that was the idea. And then the day before you went to run, you were like, these people have no idea.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you don't run.
I don't.
You
Not like
don't
that.
ever do long distance running. You
No.
sprint, more of a lion type working out,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
don't do no marathons and stuff like that.
yeah,
But you were like, these people have no clue. I'm about to Forrest Gump.
yeah.
You was like, I'm just gonna run.
Yep.
And the next day, I think you ran like 30, something
26 and a
crazy.
half miles.
You ran them like
Yeah.
to not train for it and just
No.
run. And I know you was hurting. I
Oh
know
my
you had to
God.
be hurting. How do you push through that pain, man?
I mean, like I said, I do kind of lean into pain.
Mhm.
So it was rough. I made the I won't even say it was a mistake. I just was not being cognizant. I bought new running shoes, didn't break them in, which is bad in itself. And I just said to myself, well, he needs it more than I do.
Mhm.
Like, so me feeling something is not going to, like, if I feel weak and I let down, like, now the purpose doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like at the end of, why'd you even do it?
Yeah.
If you're gonna give up in 2 miles, this person needs a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
I got 2 legs. I'm okay. Like if I put that in front of like how I feel in that moment in front of the purpose, like you're
Yeah.
weak, you're just soft. So
Yeah.
like once I got there, I said, okay. The first 10 miles was easy. And there was no training. I hadn't ran a mile in probably a month or two. And I
Mhm.
was like, I'll be fine. And I was. Once it started hurting, you just have to get into a pace. And it's just a one step in front of the next.
Mhm. Man,
So I wasn't, yep, exactly. I didn't think about how much further do I have.
Mhm.
I didn't think about how's it going to feel. It was, and I told myself this, I'm going to run 4 days. Some
Yeah.
people committed to 1 day of donation. Some people committed to all 4 days
Mhm.
with mounts per mile, which I mean, I don't know exactly what it was because it all went to his GoFundMe.
Mhm.
But I just kept just thinking, okay, if I'm going to do 4 days, I can't even envision what I'm going through right now. I have to envision the fourth
4
day of
days
running
running,
and
yeah.
finishing.
Yeah.
So I just didn't focus on it. And yeah, it hurt every night. Like when I finished, I still was doing my 100 weighted pull ups a day challenge at the time. So I still had to go to the gym, get my workout in, go do the 100 pull ups, get up at 3, 4 in the morning
Yeah.
and handle business. But that's where you lean into pain.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, you feel bigger, you
Yeah.
feel more accomplished.
Yeah. A lot of times people think that something's easier for you because it's hard for them. And getting up early, like it it's hard every single
Hmm.
time. And Huberman White Man, my white man scientist that I love to watch,
Andrew
Andrew
Huberman, he's
Huberman.
solid. I like
Yeah,
him.
yeah, he's solid. He calls it I forgot what he calls it, but he calls it friction. He calls it mental friction.
Hmm.
How do you, because you're 100% from the field.
Yeah.
How do you get through that mental friction? I still got to do my. You don't feel like it, like to the like zero energy,
Hmm.
but you generate it and get it done anyway.
Hmm.
Tactical,
Hmm.
tactical. Because you did tell me this on the phone. It's not how, it's who,
Hmm.
and so it is you.
Hmm.
But tactically, how can someone generate that?
You have to figure out your motivation. And like I know people say motivation is fleeting. I've heard that plenty of times, but motivation can spark discipline. It can remind you. So I think use all tools that you can.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just use discipline. I'm not going to just use consistency. I'm not going to just use ease. I'm going to use everything that's in my
Yeah.
toolbox. I'm not going to have a fair fight,
Yeah.
period. So when it comes to that, for me at least, I look at a weak version of myself that I'm never going to be. But I also look at other people and I say, who would do this? And then I just envision they won't do it. And I'm not going to let them beat me.
Yeah.
And I just put everything into some air of growth or competition.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you outwork me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to let you beat me. Even if you knock me down, even if you hurt me, whatever it is, like everybody can be hurt,
Yeah.
but you can't break me.
It's not
It,
happening.
you can try, you can try, and I'm gonna experience it. I'm okay with that. I'll lean into the pain and
Yeah.
enjoy it. And it may seem to some people sadomasochistic, which it's not,
Mhm.
because I'm not doing it for pleasure of pain. I've just attached the outcome to be more important than the experience, and
Mm.
then the experience becomes a gateway to the outcome. So I'm just looking at it as just change your wiring. You need to stop looking at what you're going through and look at how does it get you there faster.
Mhm.
You can take 10 years to do something. I've seen people, or even a year, someone says, oh, I need to gain 50 pounds of my press and it's
Mhm.
going to take me 6 months because science told me this. And I say, okay, well, it'll take you 6 months. It's going to take me 2 weeks. And like in my mind, I'm
Speed.
not right. I'm not going to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like you see it as I need to do this, this, and this. And I see it as, well, I'm already there. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to work in that space.
Yeah. I tell people a lot motivation is found in the extremes.
Hmm.
There's everything I
Very true.
do that's normal, it doesn't motivate me at
Hmm.
all. Like if somebody was like, just do this, it doesn't motivate me. It has to be extreme. And just segue into a story because this story was next, and you talked about it perfectly,
Mhm.
as if I'm gonna lean into that pain.
Mhm.
Pull up record.
Mhm.
This is at the time where I'm not really. I'm just now, we working out. I'm learning how to work hard, and you was like, "Yo, we gonna pull up to this gym.
Mhm.
We gonna have 4 o'clock, so we gonna record, and we gonna go 24 hours, and I'm gonna do this pull up
Yeah.
record." And you did thousands of pull ups, and
2004 and a half hours. I remember 2004 and a half hours, probably like 432 or something like that.
and at some point you partially tore your rotator cuff.
And my labrum was almost off.
Yeah, and you
Yes.
kept doing pull ups,
Yeah, my hamstring was cramping. I was getting GI issues. My body was short circuiting.
and you didn't know it was torn at the time, but you probably did 1,000 pull ups with a torn
Yeah,
rotator.
after about 800, I felt it.
Hmm.
I mean, it was because I was dropping too fast and I just
Yeah.
wasn't controlling it. And honestly, it's when your mind shifts.
Hmm.
If your mind's there, it'll work out for
Yeah.
you.
And not only did you want to beat the record,
Hmm.
but you were like, we were watching people who broke the record. They're swinging,
Yes.
they're kipping, and you're
Yeah.
like, nah, we're gonna do this perfect pull ups, all the
Hmm.
way up, all the way down, strict pull ups. So even though a lot of people, when they go to do something, they might break down um, how good they do it. Like, I'm gonna just get it done, right?
Hmm.
Because the rule says I just need to get my chin over the
Yep.
bar. And I remember you were saying too, like all the way down, all the way up, like you were saying that on the video. And so it's perfection with volume.
Hmm.
And so, how'd you get through that, man? I remember sitting there, I'm tired. I'm not even doing the pull ups, and I'm
Hmm.
like, yo, I'm ready to go home. I'm tired.
Hmm.
I'm like, sleep. I'm not even hurting.
Hmm.
What made you want to try that? And then, and then you're in the gym. I don't know, days later.
Oh yeah, we rehabbed it. Took about
Hmm.
4 weeks. Got it back, but
Hmm.
I think in those moments, like, so obviously I uh, saw people breaking the record,
Hmm.
and as I saw people breaking the record, what I honestly thought was that they're soft. It's like you guys keep putting these things. You're putting pads on your hands.
Yeah.
You sitting here taking pain meds, which I don't believe in.
Hmm.
You're kipping. You're doing all these things, and I just didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
I just like in my mindset that's not even real, and someone should be the standard. Someone should really set an example of what
Yeah.
it should look like.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of motivated me. Again, that wasn't even leaning into pain. That's just leaning into I don't think that you are what you say you are,
Hmm.
and I don't like the false representation.
I hate that too, which leads us right into it. And we're going to talk about it. The drugs
Mm,
that 99.99999%
yeah.
of people are on. And the only reason why it bothers me is because the lying, the I'm a vegan athlete who's 6% super buff, but
Hmm.
we know steroids aren't vegan. And just from the and just from the trained eye, you could tell.
Hmm.
And so someone who's built it literally with work, 20, 30 years of work. Um, how do you feel about that? And dudes be taking stuff and still don't be as strong as you, not
Mm,
even close. Because your muscles could be as big and strong as they want, but your tendons and ligaments will not be able to catch up from that. The only
hmm.
way they're going to catch up is through years and years and years and years and years of work. So, how do you feel about it? I don't really hate on it. I just don't like the
Hmm.
misrepresentation because they're using it to push their brand,
Hmm.
and they might give someone false information based off of a look that came from false work.
I don't respect it. I
Hmm.
mean, if you are going to take drugs,
Hmm.
number one, be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's just a core principle. Like if you're going to be honorable, you have to be honest.
Hmm.
You have to tell the truth, even when it's hard. And most people don't,
Hmm.
and usually the lie that you hear is to cover up another hidden truth.
Hmm.
And so that's how I look at it. When a person lies about steroids, and maybe they're lying about an insecurity that they want to mask, and they're not going to tell you that. And that expands to many things.
Hmm.
But
But the lie now is, I'm only taking a little bit. Now guys are admitting, but they're like, oh, I'm only on a dose of this much. I don't even know what the doses are.
right,
They're like, oh, I'm just on a little bit, just a little bit of TRT. Like, come on, bro.
I mean, and this isn't to down people who are going through depression. That's a completely different topic, but you're not going to justify someone saying, I'm only cutting myself a little bit. At the end of the day, you're still doing something that you don't need to do.
Yeah.
And for people out there who believe, oh, well, your testosterone goes down, you need to do this, you need to do that, we have research showing, and you can look it up yourself, and you can see 75, 80-year-olds who have higher testosterone than 25-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can acknowledge a norm, but the norm does not mean that it is doctrine or that it is required.
Yeah.
So what that means is, the average person is obese. It's not required. The average person at some point is going to have some level of type 2 diabetes or some insulin resistance that is not good. Doesn't mean it's required.
Yeah.
So just because you see people's testosterone dropping down does not mean that has to be you.
Yeah.
And I think it's an insecurity and a lack of discipline. If you're not willing to put the work in, just tell people.
Yeah.
Give people an honest delivery of this is who I am, this is what I do. And at that point, I won't agree with what you do, but I will respect you as a man, woman, whatever you are.
And we'll get away from that. But
Mhm.
real quick touch on this. You said just admit it and put the work in.
Mhm.
And a lot of them will say, even though you take it, you still have to put the work in, which the literature also doesn't support. So do
Mhm.
you still have to put the work in if you're taking um, um, steroids per se or TRT?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so there's two part. Number one, when you're taking, and they'll say it's not super physiological because they're within ranges.
Mm-hmm.
When super physiological is taking more than what your body could naturally produce.
Yeah.
But at the end state of that, you're still taking something,
Something.
right?
Yeah.
And so there's expedited or a higher rate of protein synthesis. So your body's generating tissue at a faster rate.
Yes.
But when they say put in the work, they forget that taking steroids is a supplemental motivator. The motivation that you didn't have, you now have because of what you're taking.
Yeah.
So are you working as hard? No. You genuinely aren't. So when they say put in the work, well, why don't you take off of what you're doing and then show me that you still can put in the work? You're starting the race halfway through when someone else is starting at the start line.
Starting point.
Yeah.
Let's dive into life.
Mm. It's a fun one.
Discipline,
Mm.
locked in,
Mm.
and I struggle with this, so this is kind of therapy for me.
Mhm.
And you're sort of a lone wolf. You kind of just do your own thing because ain't no people just aren't living on that level. How do you deal with being locked in, having a routine, and still managing relationships with family, with friends, personal relationships? Is it just about who you allow access? Kind of how do you manage those things? Because I mean, not too many people can relate.
So I think it truly depends on what you want. There are levels. So what I mean by levels, and I don't mean this to say that one level is better than
Better.
another one. They're just different positions in the scope of whatever your desire and purpose is.
Mhm.
For me, I mean, I've come to a different place, but I don't really care to manage. And it's that simple. I think if you have a larger purpose, you'll realize the right people will align with you on that journey. And so, in that, people will start fitting in. And the more that you have to step outside of your purpose, that's where you see the depression. That's where you see the lack of fulfillment. Your lack of fulfillment is solely you getting outside of who you truly are meant to be. And so, that's maybe not being honest with yourself. That's not going 100% in the things that you've committed to. That's not having integrity. There's a lot of things, but for me, I'm not really aiming to manage. If you're with it and you are down to be committed to rolling with it, cool. Like, okay, let's roll. If you're not, that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to keep moving.
Yeah.
If you're not on that
Wavelength.
and if that's not your goal, some people look at it as time. And if you're splitting time, which is okay, I would just say when you are doing one thing, give 100% to that thing and be very specific with the time that you're going to give. So if you're allotting time out, if I'm here, I give 100%. If I'm there, I give 100%. And if you do that, I think you will find fulfillment.
Yeah. You told me one time we were, I think Will Smith had this thing was like, if we get on the treadmill
Mhm.
together, either you're gonna get off first or I'm gonna die.
Mhm.
you were like, "Well, me and Will Smith can't kick it because he'll be a
Yeah.
dead motherfucker fuck with me."
Yeah.
Which brings me to one of my greatest um, people that I love to study that you put me on. So, what did you learn from this person, and kind of how do you see life as war, or how what do you take from this gentleman, Napoleon Bonaparte, who you put me on, and how did he help or or motivate you in your mindset?
So Napoleon, I mean, as a general, as someone who's out there fighting, I think the foundational or principal points that I learned from would be he was driven and with an unwavering commitment.
Hmm.
So it doesn't mean that he's right.
Yeah,
It just means that whatever he put his mind to, he didn't allow the negative talk in.
yeah,
You can tell him this isn't going to work. You can't do this. You can't do that.
yeah,
And he's still going to be committed to that. And that makes you a force to be reckoned with because most people along that way, you're going to see the weakness when they start second guessing their own actions.
yeah,
He wasn't.
yeah,
And the other part was he was mobile, he was fluid. And so with him, that mobilization in itself allowed him to do things that maybe other people didn't because strategically in the war premise, people were behind. Their strategy was getting on the lines, doing this, standing in this order, attacking in this way. And
yeah,
for him, it was no, we're going to be mobile. We're going to mobilize our forces and do what gives us the greatest advantage. And it showed to help him.
yeah,
And I think it was his commitment that really motivated and rallied people. He'd be on the lines with them. He'd
yeah,
be out there really pushing. And that's as much as we believe in great orators and we see people who speak well and they get out there, you can't lead without action.
yeah,
And so if you want massive action and momentum, you have to lead.
yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah, and it's funny how they try to use greatness and put these labels on it like it's bad. They say you got Napoleon syndrome. I've heard that so
Hmm.
many times. Being, I'm not even a small guy, but that's what people try to say. Another one of those is, and we're talking about this, so I want to touch on it, is narcissism. You know,
Hmm.
I took a test that said I'm self-reliant narcissist,
Hmm.
and I was like, it's gonna be the narcissist podcast right here, and you're like, no, it's not narcissism. Break down, are we narcissistic or are we not?
I mean, are you asking in general, or are you asking very particular to yourself, me, or what is?
In particular to you, just believing in yourself.
Hmm.
Because now I just tell people, yeah, I'm narcissist. Or
Mm,
when they try to tell me as a negative thing, I'll say, well, there's 7 types of narcissists. Which one am I? And then
mm,
they're like, and I'm like, yeah, you're ignorant. You're just trying to
mhm,
just label me as something because I believe in myself, right?
mhm.
And I'm self reliant or whatever. And so believing in yourself, being that competitive, saying no, you're not going I don't see it as narcissistic. What do you see it as?
Um, and so that's a good question. I think often we've given things and people titles
Yeah,
to give ourselves security.
make us
Because,
feel better.
right, lack
Yeah,
of understanding creates fear for people. If you don't know what's there, you're going to try to label it so you can better deal with it. And when people say like they have great belief, and this depends on where your belief system lies, but again, it taps back to faith. Like if you say I'm not going to be fearful because of faith, it doesn't mean you're not apprehensive. Doesn't mean that things don't get you excited, but you're saying regardless of what the circumstance is, you will not change what I'm going to do next.
yeah,
I'm going to be unwavering, and in that, it depends on again also what your purpose is.
yeah.
For me, I consider myself a person of service. So a lot of the things that I do in a work capacity are serving or helping or
Hmm.
assisting other people.
Hmm.
So my own belief, whether that's to incentivize people, to show them a way, to give them
Hmm.
motivation, or to be able to do things in the physical for them,
Yeah,
it's an act of service. And if I am wavering on my belief in myself, I'm letting them down. And
exactly.
so, if what you do and purpose and how you live is an extension of bettering others, or at least attempting to,
Hmm.
you can't see that as narcissistic. And if people want to call it that because you aren't willing to show a level of disbelief or thinking that you're less than,
Hmm.
then that's just their insecurity.
And the better you are, the better you can serve,
It's kind
right?
of simple, right?
Yeah. Um, if you could have dinner with anybody who's ever lived in history,
Mm,
who would it be, and what would you ask them?
I've never thought about that. That's a
besides Napoleon?
that's a phenomenal question. Let me at least give two, maybe three. One would be Miyamoto Musashi. And Miyamoto Musashi was a Ronin. Ronin is a samurai that does not have a master, so he's not serving the emperor, and he's one of the most famed warriors. One of the tattoos on my chest is a quote from him, and he never lost a battle. And he would go out there and he challenge anybody, didn't matter what it was, and that type of energy is just addictive. It's attractive. Like
Yeah.
that's it's beautiful. So I just want to see kind of some of his strategies. Like, what were you doing? What was your day to day?
What you thinking about?
Um, Another one would be Will Smith. I think that being who he is, the positions that he's had a great impact, and then seeing things that go on now and seeing whether you want to call it a displacement, but how he engages things, how he handles things, the state of calm, whether you like his decisions or not, he's maintaining what he chooses to maintain. And I think there's a lot to learn from people who can inspire and motivate on the level that he has. And the last one will probably be Elon Musk. And for the longest time, I don't agree with all the stuff he says,
Mm-hmm.
but he's driven.
Super.
He's objective. He has an idea of what he desires to do, and that in itself deserves respect for people who can commit to that. Even the things that I don't agree with,
Yeah.
I respect his commitment to following through.
Mm-hmm.
So I would want to see where that vision goes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what he uses to expand.
Next level, last number. As we're wrapping up, what do you do specifically to make money, training, everything you do, and how can people come into your world?
So um, I do train.
Mhm.
So if you want personal training, I'm kind of niche down on
It's
performance
not
and
cheap.
prehab. No, I'm not cheap. I would never want to be.
Hmm.
And so again, it's prehab is performance.
Yeah.
That's my training premise. If I make you less injury prone, you will perform better.
Hmm.
So it's taking that governor off, like we spoke about. I also do firearms training,
Hmm.
whatever level you want. I am DOJ and post certified. So if you want to learn how to shoot, learn how to defend yourself, and understand how to develop foundations. So these are foundations, not just hitting a target, but things that can translate to actual defense,
Yeah.
not just stand on a flat range and hit a target,
Hmm.
and to be a better, not only provider, but a better protector,
Yeah.
whether that be for your fellow man, your family, but being safe
Yeah.
in that process.
Hmm.
I do that. And if you want business development, whether that be marketing, whether that be coaching, whether that be how to better create systems within your company
Hmm.
for better engagement to make sure that the culture of your office is better,
Hmm.
whatever that looks like. We can get you set up. We can
Yeah.
sit down. We can organize with you. We can create something in place that is manageable to where you can actually measure it, whether that's weekly, biweekly, or monthly, to make sure that you are getting a return on the service that we're providing. If you are looking for that, you can find me on Instagram at I am Jivan. We also have a website that is working to get everybody onto the app.
Hmm.
We have Team Truly Fit app, and on there we're going to be uploading workouts. There'll be workout programs, and you can tap in. It's only $8.99 a month, so super cheap. But now you'll start to get access, and there'll be more content coming to where you get workouts, you get understandings, and you're not getting cookie cutter
Hmm.
things. You're getting explanation and sequences because
Yeah.
regardless of what you do, it's not about what you do, it's about how you
You
do
do
it.
it.
And order makes just as much importance as the
Mhm.
exercise itself.
Yeah. And the business stuff, I almost forgot about that. Man, you're amazing at that. You helped. I know personally two people build 6 and 7 figure businesses,
Hmm.
just helping them out. So that's next level. Is there anything that I should have asked you, or just gems, nuggets, just something to leave the people with, so they can just feel inspired, or just whatever you think they might need in this moment.
um, like I said, I think a lot of what people go through is really the thoughts of what is to come.
Yeah.
And we all have trials, but I think people really need to understand and lean into what I would call suffering alone. And that doesn't mean that if you do need to reach out to somebody, you need to speak to somebody, you should. Don't put yourself in dangerous positions. Don't take things for granted. but understand finding that space to sit with things, finding that space to learn how to repurpose, because whatever you feel is going to give you an emotion.
Yeah.
That emotion is energy, and that energy can be repurposed. So finding a way to come to terms with whatever you're dealing with and use everything to your advantage.
Mhm.
I don't care what happens in your life, use it. Use it. That's what working out is.
Yeah.
It's a foundation. Without resistance, there is no strength. So if you want to get better, find everything that's happening in your life and figure out a way to direct it and use it to your benefit.
Without resistance, there's no strength, no challenge, no champion.
100%.
Last question. What is success to you?
Success is doing what you want in
That's
the most simple way. Like, I can judge someone's success by saying, hey, they're not helping people. I think we should be altruistic, but if they're doing what they want, they are successful. Or we can just say it's getting the result by getting the desired result
Mhm.
by the way of your actions that you've taken. So as long as your actions are equaling your desired result, that would be success. And in some fashion, everybody's successful because their actions are leading to a specific result. But
Yeah.
again, if your desires and your actions are in alignment and you are moving towards what you desire by way of your actions,
Mhm.
you're successful. So, and I don't think it's an end state, it's just progression.
Yeah.
Are you progressive every day?
Every day.
Every day, are you moving that needle in the direction that you desire, not what the world tells you, not what someone else's expectation is?
Man. There it is, man. Thank you.
No problem, brother.
Appreciate you coming on. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, share with someone. Always remember to be yourself. Don't be a normie. It isn't for everyone.